So I'm supposed to make this video where I narrate my story. So yeah, here it is. It's titled That Which Could Have Cured Cancer. So the story is about a boy who works as an assistant to a scientist, and together both of them go through some stuff. So yeah, that's what it's about. It starts off with a few dialogues where the boy is trying to reach out to the scientist through a phone call, but the scientist is actually not there to take the call. So yeah, so it starts off like this. Hello, Professor Martinet. Dr. Martinet this side. Please leave a message. Sir, it's about the recursion device you told me to make. It's almost done, but I seem to have stuck somewhere in the main circuit. I just can't figure it out due to some reason. I wouldn't have contacted you otherwise. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Good day, sir. I received a text message 3 hours later that said, bring it to my lab after 5 today. I was kind of relieved that it was a message instead of a phone call. Professor Martinet hated failures, and what followed was never pleasant. He was an old French scientist under whom I worked at the Science Academy in California. He was a plump man of around 70 who had lost most of his hair during his many years of work at the academy. He was well known among the scientists of the area, and I must say I realized much later that it was my very good fortune to have assisted him. People had often told me that Martinet chose me over many others who were in most aspects smarter than me because he was quite fond of Indians. Later that day, when I reached his lab, he was working on something else, like always. He was too restless to stay jobless for even a moment. Most of the days, he'd immediately hide all his papers in haste at the sight of anybody. But that day he was quite calm. Oh, my boy, I was expecting you. Come, follow me to the basement. I was shocked at these words. Absolutely no one was allowed in Dr. Martinet's basement, not even me. It was always intriguing for me as of what lay there. Martinet always avoided any conversations about it and said that it was some secret project he was working on. And sir, what about the recursion device? Leave it up there, it's not important right now. Come down, quick. The basement, as I had expected, was a gloomy place, with many tables and a lot of things scattered around on it. It was a huge machine with two similar looking glass containers of about 8 feet height and huge tanks above both of them with other minor machinery attached to it. The professor pointed at it saying, this here, my boy, is my life's work. He pulled out a coin from his pocket and kept it in one of the glass containers. He pulled a lever and there was a spark in the coin and it vanished into thin air. To add to the blow that was already on my mind, the coin had appeared in the other container. Martinet picked it out and showed it to me, saying, the future is here, kid. But sir, how? I always thought teleportation was just a theory that violates the most fundamental laws of science. You can't possibly create matter out of nothing. He smiled. I never said I can. After a pause, he said, look son, the first tank analyzes each portion of the subject item and sends messages in the form of radio signals to the other tank. Each tank has a store of elemental forms of most of the stuff in the periodic table. It uses up its resources to sort of 3D print the item. It duplicates as of what is there in the first container and vaporizes the original thing into its constituent elements, and it goes back into the store of the first tank. The process is reversible. I know it's a lot to take in, he chuckled. Sir, I don't mean to offend, but what good would it do to make coins disappear and appear? Oh, come on, kid. I'm going to take this beyond coins, of course. I'm going to expand this to humans. What? That's stupidity. I suppose it's working well up to non-living things, but trying it on living people is just barbaric. Kid, biology is just applied chemistry, I know. Yeah, life occurs because of millions and millions of chemical reactions occurring every moment in each and every cell of the body. The cells are made of matter. This machine right here replicates matter in the exact same orientation that it has been programmed to do. Even your brain cells will be in the exact same arrangement after the procedure, so your consciousness and memory stays intact as well. So it basically gives you a new body. Exactly, he exclaimed. And that is the whole point. You can program the procedure a bit differently and give a human a new body, rid of all his diseases and disabilities, without any painful procedures, and I don't like saying it, but it might even pave humanity's way to immortality. Imagine that. I had a lot of thoughts going in my head at that moment. I was never too quick to analyze multiple thoughts at once. All of it just didn't seem correct to me. It was good on paper and ingenious theoretically, but something about it just didn't seem right. Nevertheless, I decided not to let any of those thoughts reach Martine. Professor, this is brilliant honesty, right? I talked to the director about this and we have tomorrow's slot presentation. This is so exciting. Let's just fix your recursion device now. Then you can go home and have a good night's sleep. It's going to be a long day tomorrow. Next day when I reached Professor Martinez's lab, there was no one there. Not even in the basement where the machinery was set. His phone was switched off and so I decided to wait for him there. After about an hour when no one came, I decided to go and see at the academy. The academy that day was in a different tone. People looked upset and moreover, there were cops all around. I sneaked into a corner to hear a conversation between a senior police officer and some old scientists. Can you possibly think of any reasons Dr. Martine would do this? Asked the cop. Don't know really, Professor. The other 3 were his batchmates during his study years here. If I'm not mistaken, the 4 used to be pretty good friends, said Dr. Stone, an acquaintance of Professor Martine. Then suddenly his glance fell upon me and he exclaimed, "There he is. That is Martine's assistant. He might know something." 3 cops rushed towards me. "Hello sir, we'd like to have a word with you." Sure. When did you last see Dr. Martine and where?" "Yesterday evening, I went to his lab to get one of my devices that I had been working on fixed. Then I drove straight back to my place." The cops paused for a moment and looked at each other. "Really sorry sir, but that's it?" Yeah, that's it. That's about it. I haven't had a word with him since." "Well, where is he now and what's this all about?" "So you don't know." Making out from my expressions that I was quite much in a dilemma, he continued. "Dr. Martine has murdered 3 of his former batchmates and current colleagues and is on the run." I was absolutely aghast. I didn't know what to do or say. It was all so shocking. Professor had this very day which could change his life forever. Instead of staying on track, he suddenly goes and does something so horrible out of the blue and runs off. It all just didn't make sense to me. How was it confirmed it was him, officer? Busted by the CCTVs. One may escape God's notice, but there's no getting away from the cameras, he chuckled. Giving me a card, he said, "Here's my phone number. You get to know anything, you dial me up straight away." To which I nodded and walked away. I went up to the reception immediately to ask if the director was available for an urgent conversation. Unfortunately, he was not. Turned out he had not showed up at the academy that day, which was quite normal for him. He used to take leave for even the slightest of things. I decided to go back to the lab to see if I could find something there. I could hear voices from the basement this time. Someone was there for sure. I walked down slowly and peeked from the stairs. There were 2 people and I could recognize both. One was Martine himself and the other was Dr. Golding, another professor at the academy. Martine could now see me and ragefully ran at me with a knife. "You just can't stay away from this, can you?" he said in a much deeper voice than usual and tried to stab me. I got away closely. Grabbing an old empty glass bottle, I smashed it on his head in an attempt to defend myself. He fell off and went unconscious. I then turned to Dr. Golding. "What's going on? What has suddenly come up on him?" He said nothing at first. Just breathed, very hard, as if he was trying to gather words. "Answer me, Dr. Golding, what's all this?" "I'm not Golding, I'm director. He's Golding," he said, pointing towards Martine. "What? Sir, are you out of your senses?" "I know it sounds stupid, but explain yourself or I'm going to use this already broken glass bottle, which you suppose would be much more painful than that," I said, indicating towards unconscious Martine. "Calm down, boy. I'll explain everything later. Remember what you said to me the first time you came to my office on your first day at the academy? You told me that you always wanted to study in the US and then go back to India to start your own research work there. Done? Trust me now?" That was something only the director could have done. "Tie up the body. You have to leave for Golding's right away." "What? By there?" "That's where he contained both me and Martine after he kidnapped us." "Alright, I'll call the cops and tell them to be there too." We dumped the body into the car's backseat and set off. Martine was actually there and he was quite relieved to see us. "That scoundrel," he exclaimed as soon as I took off the cloth that tied his mouth. "What's going on, Professor?" Isn't it obvious? Golding changed the programming on the machine to transform himself into me and do things to defame me by doing something stupid or really disgusting, or a murder. What? That is horrible. But why would he do it? Martinet paused for a moment as if he was trying to recollect old memories. Then he spoke. Revenge. He had always sought revenge after me and my friends humiliated him on the stage in our third year. I knew he would never miss out on any chance to do the same to me someday, but I never thought he'd do something this cruel. And what was the point of including a director into all of this? Isn't it obvious? He needed someone whom he could preserve his true self into so that he could change back after finishing all his dirty work. But then how do we change back the director? Martinet looked disappointed at this. We'll figure something out, he said, though there was not much hope in his voice. At that moment, the cops blasted in and poor Dr. Martinet had to go over the entire explanation once again. Golding still looked like Martinet had the same clothing on as he was caught on the cameras, made the convincing easier. Martinet was free of all charges, but the state ordered him to destroy the machinery. No matter how much he tried to explain as of how revolutionizing it was, the state still saw it as a threat. Martinet was in tears when the decision was made. He had spent all his life working on something so noble, but the consequences of this incident totally broke him up. I, for the first time that day, realized that science, a boon or a bane, had always been and will always be an open-ended question. But it made no difference as of how pure the intentions of the creator might be. There will always be people out there waiting to seize any opportunity to cause a catastrophe. So yeah, that's about it. Thanks.